Okay, now you're going to be thinking about where you want to put your trees. And as you're drawing these in, do not go into the wet area. You just want to get your mechanical pencil, and you're going to be thinking about where you want your trees to be. Now, I took my picture and actually folded it so that my painting is about the same size, but this ended up being even more in the center than what I wanted. Remember the rule of thirds. If you have a long canvas like this, right, and you divide your canvas into thirds, vertical and horizontal, so you've got horizontal and vertical, and here, this is the area that you want to have your objects of interest, where these lines would intersect, right? So I put mine up into this area here, and the trees are gonna lead your eye right up to the object of interest. That's what makes this kind of a fun piece. Now, if you want to, you can just come in and lightly sketch. I'm kind of pressing hard just so you can see on camera, and that would be this one. And notice that this is kind of a fisheye, right? So it's like radial arms going towards the moon. So guys, you really can't get this wrong. And you don't have to sit there and go, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, just put a few in, and then we're gonna start putting in the trees. And then we're gonna have, you know, look back and see if we need to fill in anything specific for these. I like that some of them are really close together, and they're all different lengths, right? So look, this one ends way up here, where this one, you know, the big part of it anyway, ends way down here. So this one comes up and then curves off. Not all trees are going to go straight up and down, but right now we're just doing straight lines as a guideline for us to do our tree. If this were this really big one, I'm gonna slant it even more. My picture being, I'm drawing the thickness of this one, right? But it doesn't have to be just perfectly straight. Notice that it curves, and if it curves on this side, it usually bulges out on the other. So, you know, be thinking about those types of things as you're creating your trees. And this one kind of comes up into 2 sections. That's this big guy, and then this one comes almost straight across. This one just barely shows into the picture frame at all. And then we've got a few just smaller ones. We got a medium one, almost straight up and down. It does slant back a little bit. And these are pencil lines. You don't like them, go back and erase them. It's, you know, it's no big deal. All right, so we have us a few trees. We don't have everything. And we're going to start with our brown first. Brown is kind of thick because it's made from earth, right? I mean, it's kind of thick, so you may want to add just a little bit more water than I normally say, but this is burnt umber. If you're using burnt sienna, it's not going to be as thick. It's a different kind of earth that it's made from. So I'm just filling up the end of my brush, right? You don't want to have it too super. The blue back here in the background is a little bit wet, so I'm going to turn my book here, and I'm going to work on these. You can, whenever you do that, don't look at your picture like this. If you've turned your picture to see how things are going, you need to make sure that you turn your reference photo as well. And right here on my line, I'm going to draw in my first branch. It goes right off the canvas, and then it turns right here. I am staying up on just the tip, just like this, right? To get the thin lines, you have to stay just the tips. If you press down hard, it's going to make a thick line. So you cannot press hard and get really thin lines. You're just letting the few hairs on the end glaze the surface of the canvas. And you're gonna do like tons of branches. So it might be a little bit wet, so I'm gonna pick up some of the paint over here. And if you get it too wet, guys, remember water is your eraser in acrylic. So you can just come back in and add in any of these things that are in your way that you really don't like. We're going to do so many little bitty tiny branches. You're going to learn a lot of control with your brush. Nothing like, ooh, see how large that lump is? Yeah, we don't want that. But we can come back in here and fill in the brown. What we're going to do is kind of give this tree trunk, or I mean these trunks going up, a little bit of a glow effect, I guess you'd call it. And that's why we're using the brown first. And then right in the dead center of these tree trunks, some of them, the really big ones that are up closer, we're going to put black in the center of those. Stay up on point. Don't run out of paint before you get to the bottom. So you want to make sure you just keep going back and getting more and more and more, right? If you miss your pencil line, you know, it's no big deal. This one is actually going right up into the moon itself. So this really thick one is going up and past the moon itself. So we're going to come in to the moon itself. Yeah, that's dry. Always test it, guys. If it's sticky at all, don't paint there. Keep going around, or, you know, do something different, but not, you don't want to put a wet paint into a semi-wet space. It'll just lift it off. So I'm going to keep filling these in. This one's really, it goes off. And remember, jig-jag the branches and stuff like that. Don't make any of them just perfectly straight, right? They should be jagged. And then this gets really thick. As you're looking up, it's kind of a perspective thing. You're looking up the trees, and they're a lot thicker down here by you than they are way up into the night sky. When your paint starts to drag like this and you can see the bump surface of your canvas, that means your brush has run out of all of its water. You always want your brush to be moist, not wet, but moist. And I'm going to bulge out this side, which means this side curves the other way. They don't have to be perfectly smooth because, you know, they're trees. After all, they're very bumpy. If you have a problem with some of these staying up on just the few hairs and stuff like that in your piece, then you can, oh, I missed that line completely. Did you see that? I can go back and erase it. It's no big deal. It's just pencil. And so we're just kind of putting in some of these big trunks. They do go very fat to very thin. So this one needs to get even fatter than it is. So I'm gonna start pushing down a little bit more. What I was saying is if you have a hard time with this brush, there isn't any reason you can't use your detail brush. That's a real fine hair brush. It will take you a little bit longer to do, but you know, looks just as amazing as anything. I like the Filbert style brush. I'm gonna go ahead and put in a few more of these. I am balancing my hand so that I can move my hand instead of just trying to curve. If you just move your wrist, your whole arm, you're gonna get a straighter line than if you just move your, you know, just your fingers like this, right? So I am balancing my hand like this so that I can move down. Keeps my hand steady. A little cluster of them here. And they are definitely starting to drag. So we're going to come pick up a little bit more, just a little bit. See that little bubble on the end? You just want a tiny little bit, not a large bubble, a really fine bubble. But say you went, oh no, I got this way too thick, you know, you kind of messed it up in some way. Just remember, clean out your brush, dab out all the water. I got some brown up and toward the barrel. Get a little bit of clean water. Clean your brush. Dab off all the water, all the clean water. And then, oh, I'm sorry. No, we're not painting, we're cleaning. We're going to just use water and we're gonna move that paint back where we want it to be. Does that make sense? So water is your eraser in acrylic. And this has to be done while it's wet. You don't go, oh, well, I'm going to keep going around and I'll come back and fix it later. No, it won't be fixable at that point. You'll have to just make a really fat tree there, which is fine. I mean, look how many trees there are. But if you're wanting to learn how to do this, or how to use your water as an eraser, then this is the way to do it. Okay, I'm going to push that line back to being skinny. I'm just using the tip edges, just like I was painting these tiny little trees. And I'm pushing the paint back towards the trunk there. So, oops. I dabbed it off onto the towel and the towel was dirty. All right, so now we've got our thinned out lines. So many of these are going to be filled with all the little bitty branches and whatnot anyway. So we are going to not fret over these trunks too much. Okay. Looking at my picture this way, this one is the really big one. So I want this one to be fat. So I'm going to mark it, which one I want it to be. It does come into this part of the moon. It's kind of got a lot of little branches at the top. And then it starts getting thick, moving down to this base. So now I'm going to thicken it up to match the base. Both sides. Add a little bit more brown there. Dragging, get a little bit more. This brush is kind of hairy. That means that instead of it coming down perfect, these little bumps that are in here, that's not paint. That's some of the hairs are kind of folding back. So not the best for detail, but this is not like eyelashes and stuff like that. This is something that can be fixed. So even if your brush is not perfect, you're going to be able to do this. Same thing. That one looks like it's pretty small. Yes, it is. And then the one from the top, that one's kind of thick. And it goes into the moon as well. So we're just going to go into the moon a little bit. Thicken that stalk or trunk. Like this, and continue on around. Little short one here. Now this one across the top kind of curves into the moon with some really interesting jagged shapes. So it kind of comes up here and then goes up and then comes down and then comes up again. So like the poor little branch has gotten broken off somewhere. And I love to give trees that kind of character. They're just amazing that way. So don't set your hand in the painting as you're going, but I want to go you know, kind of up at this point and have a little nub there on the end and then bring it back, and it's thicker as it goes off. And then there is a little short one there, a little bit larger one that comes towards the moon like this, and then curves up again. Now I'm having to press down because I'm running out of paint, but that really needs to be a little bit, you know, it doesn't need to be super thick. You don't want it to look too fat because you know, on a tree the branches are larger towards the trunk, and as they go out towards the edges or the outside of the tree, they are going to be much smaller. That's where all the little twigs and stuff are, on the very ends. So there are no trees in this area here, no trunks or whatever. There's one coming out over here that I need to do, where I just drew this little tiny pencil line, and it's just filling up this space along with this one that's curving up. It's just kind of filling up this space, but the biggest trees are these four. So just to let you know why I'm not, you know, coming in all over, because you're down in the forest looking up into the sky. It's not going to be a perfect fisheye for you. But I want to thank Pixabay for this beautiful picture to help us do our project here. I go on to a couple of different sites. Reference Photos for Artists is one of them, and Pixabay. There's a lot of them, guys, that do these wonderful photography for artists to use. You know, they just want to inspire other people, and there's a, you know, free section and everything in Pixabay, so, you know, you can't mess that up. Now,